When everybody, we are about to start, so we are looking for one or two lost panelists. Do you want me to? We ready to start? So thank you, everybody. I'll leave it to my team to lead to be the other MC today, and to Vasta to make a very good introduction. So thank you, everybody, for coming here a bit early, because this one will be crowded very soon. So you made the right choice, and please stay until the end. Win, please give us your opening speech.
Thank you, Mauro. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining me in the CFS Masterclass. So for this year Masterclass, we have put up together a team of renowned experts who will be sharing their insight and expertise with you over the next 2 hours. So in a moment, I will go through the agenda with you. Yep. Can you please help me move to the agenda slide? So for the first part of the masterclass today is the design panel. We have a super team of designers who will be discussing about the latest design trend and innovation in hospitality industry. For the second part, we have 3 CFS talk on center around the theme of lighting. The first presentation will be about well-being lighting for hospitality projects. The second topic is about tunable white, and the last topic is about rediscovering light and darkness. And for the last part, we will have a panel of top management levels from leading hotel and resort in the country, and they will share with us their opinion about what is going on out there in the hotel market. And before we get started, I would like to thank Vasta Stone for being our co-host for this masterclass room, and I would like to invite on stage Ms. Thảo from Vasta Stone to say a few words with our audience.
Just on Vasta Stone, unfortunately, Ranko, which is the managing director, couldn't join it today, and a very urgent business meeting, very important meeting for the whole month. Tao is so kind to share with us a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Mauro. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Thảo Nguyễn, the marketing director of Vasta Stone, the first luxury sinter stone brand proudly crafted in Vietnam. I'm delighted to be here with all of you at the masterclass by Vasta Stone. At Vasta Stone, we believe in the power of space to create lasting moments in our lives. Vietnam's unique blend of tradition and innovation makes it the perfect backdrop for developments in hospitality and real estate. And we are very proud to be a part of this transformation, crafting sustainable, innovative, and meaningful space. Today holds the promise of inspiration, innovation, and collaboration. It is a day dedicated to sharing knowledge, stories, and ideas. And this is the time to force connection, to learn, and to grow together. I am so excited, and I hope you are too. So let's enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thảo. And now we will kick off the masterclass. I would like to introduce on stage Mr. Mohammed Adib, the Chief Design Officer of Day One Architects. And joining him in this esteemed panels are representatives from Design Lab, Studio North, Chancellor, and Architects. Please welcome them on stage.
Okay, thank you everyone for coming to this boutique Meet the Experts, very cozy setting. We have an amazing group of speakers and experts that I feel cover sort of most of the sectors in design, especially hospitality, that is happening in the region. So I think before I'd like to each one, if you could just introduce yourself a bit about your company and sort of your main work, regions, and projects.
I start? Okay.
Perfect.
Good afternoon. My name is Michel Cassagne. I'm the Managing Director of Archetype Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. And I've been in Vietnam since '97.
Good afternoon. My name is Kirk Ellis. I'm the Director of Hospitality at Gensler, overseeing the hospitality design in Asia Pacific, based in Singapore.
Hi guys, nice that such a big crowd today. My name is David Hodkinson. I'm one of the co-founders of Studio Nor. We've been here in Vietnam 20 years actually this month, and it's great to be here to see everyone today.
And I'm Álvaro Paredes, Director of Design Lab, and I've been in Vietnam for about 8 years, so not as long as the other guests.
Okay, so basically what I've divided the sort of the talk in 4 different sections. They're all design related, so I'd like you basically to share your thoughts, your tendencies, everything that's happening in the market. I mean, it doesn't necessarily be just Vietnam, but all the sort of the Southeast Asia region. The first sort of section is probably the design issues, or let's call it constraints, that are happening in the region. One special one, I think I'd like to direct to you, Michel. With all the sort of the rapid growth, the sort of the speed of development, what sort of stress or strain it's putting on the infrastructure, on the traffic, on all the things? Are the master plans that are happening factoring this in? Is it going to be a problem as we develop further and further?
I will not comment on the infrastructure, but on master plan, yes, because we have been doing master planning for almost 25 years now. And we saw, for example, 20 years ago, we saw how the different provinces tackle the issue of master planning in the main city in the province. And I think if everyone knows Vietnam, you will see that Da Nang has developed very well in that sense, that they were planning way ahead of the development. And I remember some meeting and People's Committee at that time. They were much advanced compared to any other cities in the region. And you see the result today. There is no problem in Da Nang, even if there's not much public transportation system. It's working quite well. The infrastructure is there. So master planning is important. What I would like to emphasize is when you go on the development, for master planning for the development. So you have many steps, the 1 to 2,000 approval, the 1 to 500, and then after the architect kicks on. And this system, it's good to control the development, but it doesn't give much flexibility. So that's where I would like to see a little bit of changing in the way development occur in Vietnam, because trends are changing all the time. It takes 1 year or sometimes longer to get all these steps to go forward, and suddenly your project doesn't make any more sense because the trends has changed. So if flexibility can be brought into this process, I think it will help developers also.
Sort of going down the same subject a bit to you, Kirk. The same effect of this sort of sprawling urbanization of the cities, of the city centers, it's leading also, I guess, to loss of green spaces. Is that something that you're seeing throughout the region? Is it something that we should take extra care of to keep that balance between urban and countryside?
I think it's 2 different things. So green space compared to countryside, so for sure. Obviously, Vietnam's on a great path. We just saw good numbers. There was a dip. Everyone had a dip. We're going back up. So I think you're right. There was a comment that was just made. How can the government help to oversee? So if you look at ESG, geez, the governance part, what can the government do to help to protect some of those things? And you need to have some foresight to do that. That's one thing. Two, obviously Singapore is a great example of re-greening spaces because it's an absolute necessity with limited space. Not all projects, nor developments, nor cities, countries need to go that far, but there's something that can be learned. So on a small site or a medium-sized site, you just need to have that foresight. I think that's to your point about master planning also. We're all design professionals. We are at our best when our clients come to us and say, I have a clear vision of where I want to go. Here's what I want to do, my budget, etc. And it's a 20-year vision. And then we can do our best to help to set up, here's some design solutions to reach that. And so it's really both a bit of government and also a bit of the vision.
Basically, legislation and the developers should take care of
We
that.
still work for the developer, of course,
Yeah, of course.
but it's their vision. And when the developer doesn't have much of a vision, it's evolving, then we have to kind of follow along. And we're maybe not at our best sometimes.
Okay. Sort of moving down the scale, I think, Alvaro, if I may direct you, also the development of the city centers, should we, sort of what importance should we give to the heritage, to the old buildings, to the refurbishment, and how should we sort of knock blocks out and develop new towers?
I think that's interesting, especially when you go to the city centers, and even linking a little bit on the master plan. Many times we tell the clients that it's good to take what is on the site already and incorporate it on the project, because that's something that is given, instead of just doing tabula rasa and starting. I think when you go to the city centers, that's even more important, because you get these, especially in Saigon, Hanoi, other cities, you get these fantastic buildings that are there already, and they've been there for 100 years, and if you just destroy and start from zero, I think you're missing something that you're not going to achieve, even no matter how good you're on the design, just having that character, that sense of place, that heritage. So I think that's something that some developers need to learn and also encourage as well. Yes, it might be more costly actually to redo something, to renovate something that redo it from zero, but I think the project will be much better if you actually incorporate that into the design.
Can I add something to that? So
Yeah, please.
I think what helps that is the brand companies, having lifestyle brands, soft brands, that sets things up for, it doesn't have to be a predictable box of 300 keys and we know exactly what this is and it's the same as what's 100 meters away. That's the opportunity. The brands want to see something like that, but it takes a little bit more work from us as designers to say, okay, I've got new build and renovation. How do I connect as far as building systems? How do I connect for waterproofing and blah, 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 blah. We can do it, but again, it comes back to that first vision. Those are the fun projects. Then that'll be a unique property for the next 20 years, for sure. It's a great option.
Too, I think, one of the things about retaining something that already has some culture, a heritage, tradition, it's already there. I think a lot of the new resorts that have been developed over the last 10 years, quite often, which are coming with a very strong character. There's an example here in Sapporo with certain designers and certain brands, they're trying to put in a very strong, characterful building. But when they already exist, why not exploit that, use that, and it's already there to be used.
And it goes to the master plan as well. Many times the clients say, okay, destroy everything, you start from zero, and then the landscape comes in, and then you need to plan what you destroyed a year ago. So I think a proper discussion or planning from the master plan at the 1 to 500, I think could help a lot to actually get the project in a good shape much quicker than if you basically start from zero, and it goes to the city hotels, it goes to the resorts.
I think that leads us to the second group of questions, which is more about the sort of the design trends in the region. So that is actually carrying on this point as well. And to you, Alvaro, just carrying on. It is, you're talking about sort of a fusion between the sort of the old and the new. But who should be responsible for this? I mean, should we as designers sort of try and insist this? Should obviously a listed building, you can't do certain things, but there's a lot of options sometimes that it doesn't have to be the building itself. It could be the way that the buildings are arranged in an area or a tree or something like that. Is that something that you look after and you suggest to a client?
I think at least whenever we start a project, that famous cliche of the sense of place, but for us it's quite important. We believe that as designers at the end, you need to offer a different experience, and someone that is traveling from France, Spain, US, whatever, they want to feel that they are in Vietnam or in Cambodia or in Laos or whatever we are designing. So I think studying what is there, understanding why it's there as well, which sometimes gets related to history, to the existing site. I think it's important to keep and actually express that through the design, because that will add another layer of to the guest experience that they're gonna enjoy.
Okay. And to you, Kirk, actually, sorry, you want to jump in? Yeah.
In many countries, when you have an heritage overlay, the architect has to present the project, and there is commissions, the Heritage Commission, the Environmental Department Commission. Why don't we have that here?
Yeah. To you, Kirk, probably you're the more sort of global of us here on the table.
Just one guy. I mean, okay, fine.
Behind you. To think about sort of what we're talking about, the design trends in this region, how much do you see is sort of locally developed trends? How much is sort of, I won't call it globalized design, but I mean things that are coming from abroad, especially in the hospitality. How do you see that, and how do you see that here in the region?
I'm going to answer it in two ways. So one on the design side, we're talking about design, fine. I think that, to your point, it's going to be more of that, how do we get to the authentic vernacular and make that something that's palatable and enjoyable, digestible? Because again, hospitality, we're always creating an experience for our guests. People want to come stay in hotels because they want something different from what they have at home. So we still have to deliver that, no matter urban or whatever. So that's one part. I think Vietnam has a lot to offer and still progress to be made in really making that an engaging thing. I'm going to flip it around a little bit, because I often start a project with what's the business plan, positioning, et cetera. I think there's that growing maturity. In this market, I worked a lot in Thailand as well, also there, about who are we? Let's not overbuild, let's not overdo things. The comment that just came up, spa, who goes to a spa? Okay, we can lose money on spas day after day after day. So I think that's a good emerging part. So again, we can be the best as far as design advocates and giving advice to our owner clients when they have a clear vision of what they want to do with that. And I think that's an emerging part that's a really healthy part of that. Also, having worked in China, plenty of projects, bigger. Lose money on revenue. So, but again, we can design anything. That's the good part that's changing.
But I mean, sorry, the sort of the locally developed design, it's especially in Vietnam, you know, something very, very unique and very strong. It works here very well. Can you take it out? Could you use it with a sort of a traditional, not shop house, Maura's here, won't mention that word, but any sort of design styles that sort of, it's Asian chic, minimalist from Asia, especially here. Would that work abroad?
Yes, or yes, but. I think authenticity is what matters the most, right? It's experience economy, Pine and Gilmore, we know all about that. We're living in the experience economy. Authenticity is the next step. People are becoming so much more discerning in general. They know what's good, they know what's real, what's not real. I grew up near Disneyland. There's a lot of good to Disneyland, but it's all meant to be fake. It's like authentic fake, okay? And so we have to be really careful at that. And it's either you have to know the palette, have the right material if we really export that. Similarly, if we build something here, not all hotels can be an extrapolation of the local vernacular, but if there's pieces that are truly authentic, that sometimes is more special to have the pavilion, whatever the thing is, and you have a more modern hotel around it. That's okay, those two things can work together. And there just needs to be a story too. Story in sales and marketing skills, story in what your staff tells, story in how we coordinate with landscape lighting, et cetera. So yes, and that's my answer.
I think that's one of the biggest things that's changed here. I think for us, it's very rare today that a client, maybe they would have done 15 or 20 years ago, who come up and say, we'd like to have a Balinese project, or we'd like to have something in the style of. It doesn't happen very much these days. I think because of the number of amazing resorts that have been developed here over the years and still are and currently are, that people see that there's a value in what Vietnam can offer to the world, and whether that's as simple as a beautiful material and how it's being expressed in a traditional way, or whether it's a new Netflix TV show that's showing people about Vietnam to the rest of the world through the eyes of an American tourist. But I think that's important.
But sometimes it's not just even architecture or interior design, it's also operators, the guest experience or the guest service. You have all these specialty restaurants that now they omakase, all Japanese, all these. Vietnam has, Thailand, but Asia in general has such a strong character when it goes to the cuisine, how they welcome guests to the houses. I think all that could actually be extended a little bit to the front of house and be linked to the guests, how you welcome, how you treat them, what is going to be the menu. So I think that holistic experience. Yes, the architecture and the ideas, the frame of that experience needs to work out, but I think it's also a little bit more than that, perhaps.
Well, I think also like the Vietnamese food has been exported. Everyone knows banh mi, everyone knows pho today, and it's now going to another level where people start to know more Vietnamese dishes internationally. I don't see why that can't, through food, through restaurants, extend it through that in hospitality into larger projects overseas that are not about themed to Vietnam, but connecting Vietnam to the rest of the world.
Talking about a bit more about the interiors and also the design trends, you know, there was a problem, especially here in Vietnam before, with availability of materials. I think recently, and because of COVID, where everything had to be sort of locally sourced, and thanks to our sponsor who's doing amazing materials, I had to plug them in. You know? How do you find that? I mean, are you using more and more sort of local materials?
Well,
locally produced materials?
I think we're very lucky to have had that experience from when there really was not very many things to be found here. I mean, international brands, you know, American Standard was pretty much the only, you know, sinks and toilets that were here. Okay, so we used American Standard. But in those days, it caused us to be more resourceful and look to really what can be done here. I mean, for example, producing furniture, mocking up things. I mean, I think it's the dream in the UK or in the US to be able to do something as quickly as you can do here and experiment and try things. So in those early days, we were more inventive. But today, now you can get everything here, whether it's made here, whether it's designed here, or whether it's available here. You know, we just finished this project just outside Saigon in Cara, just below Phan Thiet, with this brand called Azarai, which is Adrian Zecker from Amman Resorts before. It was during COVID that we designed and built this project. Everything was either manufactured, designed, or found, sourced in Vietnam. We couldn't bring anything from outside. So, yeah, that's, I think, a good example of that. And it's great that now today, people are looking to this place to be inspired by the design. So it connects to the other conversation about authenticity.
But it also connects with the E of the ESG that Kurt was
Absolutely.
mentioning. Environmental, I mean, if you don't need to bring something from Italy anymore because you have it in Yatran quarries, fantastic. Then you're saving, you get higher score on your lead card, and then the operator is happy. So
Exactly.
I think it
Better
supports the sense of
carbon,
place, supports the E of the ESG. So I think it makes a lot of sense to do that.
And actually, with regards to quarries particularly, you know, we work with several different stone distributors, and we will go to them every year or two and ask what's now available, because a lot of these quarries are quite small, and quite often new stone is being discovered. There's some incredible stone up in the north and in Quang Nam near Da Nang that maybe people haven't used before, and it's here, it's available.
I think that's a reality for hoteliers, developers. Like 20 years from now, we're not going to be shipping stuff on planes and boats as much around the world for materials. So it's good for the Vietnam economy also to be growing. Look for those opportunities to grow it up now, work with the government to get that going. Jobs, keep things in the country, keep tax in the country, but we're not going to be polluting like we are now to move stuff around the world in 20, 30 years. Not going to happen.
I think that sort of leads a bit to my question.
No, just to add on that is, and it relates to ESG, also the trend in design. Now you can propose to your client to have the lobby open to open air, which still 10 years ago the developers said, now air conditioning, you know, you have to seal off, everything has to be air conditioned. Now they come back to work more with the nature, and we are all architects and we love to work with nature. We have to work with nature, and I think this is coming back, more integrated into the environment, and that's good. I think that's a good trend.
And do you see it, the eco-friendly,
Yes.
sustainable,
And
as a trend? Or
yes,
as
and COVID helped that,
yeah.
honestly, because COVID helped the people to realize that they have to take care of themselves, of their health, and nature is part of that. And yes, it's and also traveling, to force them to travel locally, to stay in Vietnam or in Cambodia or in Laos, then they suddenly realize, well, where do I go for this weekend where there is no air conditioning, because you can catch COVID much faster. So suddenly there's no place. And I see that in Cambodia and Laos, many developers now go on a remote part of the country and say, can you design me a beautiful resort there? 20 rooms, no more. So yes, I think that's a trend.
Which is basically where we would like to stay when we travel.
Exactly.
Okay. What sort of, this is a general question, I'd like to sort of take all of you. I mean, touching on the eco rating or sustainability ratings, what percentage of your projects are rated because the client wants to do it, because authorities require it, or because really it needs to be? Sort of.
I'll start real quick, because as I oversee Asia Pacific, there's a wide range. Unfortunately, less than 40% of our projects, our clients come to us wanting that, expecting that, or even believing, as we just heard the word morally, but that's the right thing to do, which is unfortunate. Two, the reality is we're all realists as architects and designers. We can't make a carbon neutral hotel. It just doesn't exist. We use way too much water, way too much electricity, etc. What we can do, though, is do the best we can on specification, minimize tearing down to rebuild with the same materials, embedded carbon. Those are things we can do. It's our job to advocate that to our clients, to say, here's your opportunities, and it's morally right, economically right, etc. But we have to be realistic, and we're only going to make so much of an impact, unfortunately. It has to then rely on operations, huge. The social part also in the community that's around.
I think many of them also, the operators now, depending on the brand that you're working with, they have a certain level of lead or whatever it is that you need to achieve. So I think by incorporating this in the design Bible, in the must things that you have, I think it's helping as well. Sometimes as designers, we don't like to have mandatory things that we have to follow. We normally go against that, but I think in this case it's one of the good things that it starts as mandatory, you need to compile, and I think it's working quite well.
I'm fighting in a tower project to take out 10% of our concrete right now. It's a 40-story tower hotel. Not because the client says it, because we've got enough done, like, okay, what can we do? Client will never see it, guests will never see it, it'll never affect ADR, but it's just like, those are things we can do, kind of behind the scenes.
But I mean, at the end of the day, the issue, besides operational, it's cost. And cost, the only way to bring it down is to make the legislation enforce it.
Maybe I answer this one.
You like this question?
Yes, I like this one. Yeah, because in architecture, we started by hospitality 25 years ago, and 10 years ago we started to do industrial projects. And actually we like that because we can transform a factory into a resort. We've designed some of them. And those clients, they'll cooperate from the States, from Europe. It's a compulsory to have a lead goal is the minimum. And now they're asking for zero carbon footprint buildings, which can be done in Vietnam. I've got the example of one developer, I will not name it, but he could not achieve the zero carbon footprint because of the regulation, because he was limited in the number of square meter of solar panel on the roof, whatever. But technology, we have the technology to do it. But that's the industrial sector. The industrial sector, they are more mature than in the hospitality sector. They're well ahead of that because of corporate in the States, in Europe, and Japan. So
and also their costs are more critical.
Sorry?
Their costs are more critical.
And the costs are more critical, exactly. So I think operators should think about that, and they when we work with the operator and when we do the design, we have the technical assistance from the operator. I rarely see a sustainable advisor in the team. I don't know if you guys have seen. Never. So, and we've been talking about sustainability for already 10, 15 years. So I think also, I don't know if there's some operators in the room, but that's my message.
But I think coming to this equation of sustainability, which I think this LEED certification, it applies quite often more to the architecture than the interior. But I think in general, it's a common sense. And this panel is, I think, design trends. I really don't like this term trend, to be honest, because it's something which is very transient. And I always use this example, but one of the best, I think, sustainable hotel projects that I know is the Sukhothai in Bangkok. In the 30 years that it's been open, I think they've changed some fabrics and some colors, but they haven't needed in those 30 years to change the design because it was designed incredibly well, not with any trend in mind, but with a good design principles, which today it's, and good materials, things that last. So today it's as appealing as it was. And there was a dip. I mean, I stayed there several times over the years. I remember when I first came here we just started the company, I couldn't afford to stay there. It was $600 a night. Recently it went down to 200, and now it's going back up to where it was before. So things change, but when there's a solid, good design in place, then it will last much longer than having to change and change over every 10-year cycle.
Definitely, but I mean the main issue there is the capex and opex. You know, this is the eternal fight we have between the investor and the operator. You know, the investor wants to make it as cheap as possible. The operator wants to run it for 25 years. So this is, I think, definitely, you know, some of the best hotels are the oldest hotels. You know, they have minimum. Obviously, you need to refurbish them, but it's really the better quality the material, the more it will last, the more sustainable it is.
I think in the case of Sukhothai, I don't think it's necessarily the quality of the finishing material, because all of the finishing materials, whether it's the teak or whether it's the ceramic tiles or whatever, it's all from Thailand, or at least in those days it was. It's what's behind the walls, I think, where the quality lies more, the MEP and the AC, all these kind of systems.
But we cannot do that anymore. If you want, I've got a client who wants to do a beautiful resort. He said, okay, you can use as many wood as you can. I said, no, not sustainable. There's no wood. Otherwise, you're going to cut the trees in the remaining trees there is left in Laos, maybe, because Cambodia is dead. So where do you, bamboo, that's a solution. So we have to also, as architects, advise on what is the sustainable material, because wood, tech, you mentioned tech. If you want to be sustainable and have a certification, there is no tech to be. There's only one forest or two forests in Indonesia which stamped sustainable forest, but there's very few. So that's a good business trend for developers in Vietnam, is to have a sustainable forest, and then they can sell wood again, which can be applied for certified projects.
But teak will take us 30, 40
Teak
years
takes
to
time.
start.
Yes, I know, it's a long investment.
Some projects take that long. So.
Oof.
I know we had the 5-minute warning a little while ago.
Did we? Who is giving the warning?
Right? You're giving us the 5-minute warning?
I was told.
We will need to save time for the questions from the audience, so please have to wrap up the discussion.
Okay. I'll just touch on one more subject. The fourth subject was the best, but okay, we'll miss it. Okay, I'd like to talk about operators and the experiences, and as they're all here. It's your problem, not mine. You're talking. So, sort of Alvaro, I'll start with you. I mean, your experience with a bit of the operators, whether sort of traditional international operators, local operators, boutique operators. How is that changing here? Where are your clients coming more and more from?
I think in Vietnam from a few years ago, and I think Mauro touched that this morning, is the international operators are getting more and more. I remember when we opened, and this was 8 years ago, it was a celebration on the office when a project was coming with an operator. Now it's very strange, and we actually celebrate the opposite when it's an individual project that is coming with no operator, because always, you like to do what you normally you don't have. But I think at the end, when you work with the different operators, the way we do it, you try to understand the operator, because that will change a lot on which team you're going to assign, how you're going to decide it, more from a boutique, more from efficient. For example, an ultra luxury project is not so much about the efficiency, but about the design, front of house and all that. A city hotel is a lot about the efficiency and back of house. So I think understanding exactly which operator you work in and which category within the operator you work in, it will save a lot to make the process smoother.
I'd like to direct to you, Kirk. I mean, this is something about sort of the value that comes to developments through branded residences, or what sort of brands affect that more or are more relevant?
Tricky question. I'm not going to, give any tips for preferences. No, it's okay. Here's what I think the opportunity is. The world we live in today is connected globally. Information flows freely. So therefore, an international brand can not only, as an operator, which I'm a huge proponent of, it can help a market to grow, to bring in people, to bring in cachet also, which is important. We want to have local operators, local hoteliers survive and thrive, of course, but those people are always there. So I would say the operator is something that's good to bring in. Second point, as I said before, the soft brands that really have evolved in the past 10 years, that's a huge opportunity. To not say it has to be a cookie cutter, big M. You can imagine the brand, you know, has to be the same in every location. No, we've got so much room to play now and make it a unique signature in your portfolio or your one hotel. Lots of opportunity those brands bring, and I think financial success too with sales.
And David, we were talking a bit earlier about you're sort of missing the, in Vietnam at least, the sort of, there hasn't been any epic resorts or great resorts in the last few years.
Yeah, it was funny. Yesterday I was actually with the opening GM for the Amanoi, Six Senses Condao, amongst several other projects, and the Azurai in Can Tho and Azurai in Kega. So incredible. But obviously there are certain projects like the Nam Hai, Amanoi, Six Senses Condao, or Nimbam Bay. These are the first three, Nam Hais and those two Six Senses, are the ones that kind of led the way here. And it's been a while since such a project has been built. I'm sure, and people to my left and right are designing several of them, but the amazing thing about Vietnam, and even being here 20 years, I keep discovering incredibly unique and amazing sites. I mean, there was a site the other day, thanks to Heritage magazine in Vietnam Airlines, which looked like the Giant's Causeway in Ireland. This exists in Vietnam. Incredible. So they play, and let alone the cave, you know, where it's been discovered not that long ago. So more and more amazing sites. I'm not saying that we should rape and pillage them, but I think there are these kind of projects allow people to experience the breadth of Vietnam. And of course, closer to your part of the world, in a market you're working in, and everyone, I'm sure, also to some degree in Saudi, they're showing to the world what Saudi Arabia is. All of a sudden, I mean, there's an opportunity here in Vietnam. Okay, it's not the same funds here, but there's a lot of parts of Vietnam, as Saudi Arabia, which haven't been explored. And that's what, I can't wait to see what the next epic project will be.
Do you see any sort of tendencies, new stuff coming in the region?
Gentlemen.
Oops. You don't see them? Okay.
Yes.
Or no questions?
Unfortunately, we have to stay with the schedule and we don't have time for the questions now, but we will leave it to the last part of the masterclass. So give applause to our gentleman here, please. So please join me to welcome Mr. Thông on stage.
Xin chào quý vị. Thì hôm nay tôi xin trình bày một vấn đề liên quan đến ánh sáng, mà cái việc này tôi có thể nói được đến 4 đến 5 tiếng đồng hồ, nhưng ban tổ chức cho có 10 phút. Nên là tôi cố gắng nói làm sao ngắn gọn nhất để cho mọi người hiểu. Hôm nay tất cả những người nghe là tiếng người Việt, nên là tôi nói tiếng Việt thì dễ hiểu hơn. Liên quan tới ánh sáng trong các dự án liên quan đến nghỉ dưỡng và khách sạn, thì chúng ta sẽ thấy rằng khi mà người ta từ cái chỗ mà ăn để no và mặc để ấm, thì người ta đã chuyển lên ăn phải ngon và mặc phải đẹp. Và từ đó cái nhu cầu của người ta cần có một cái cuộc sống có chất lượng. Thì khi cái cuộc sống có chất lượng thì người ta đòi hỏi nhiều hơn. Người ta đi đến chỗ khách sạn thì người ta không đòi hỏi cái chỗ mà có nhiều chỗ ăn, có nhiều chỗ nhà hàng hay có nhiều chỗ chơi, mà ta quan tâm nhiều đến cái sức khỏe của người ta, cái thoải mái của người ta và cái tiện nghi của người ta. Vậy thì các khách sạn làm gì để cho đáp ứng được cái nhu cầu này? Nhiều nhà hàng rất dễ, nhiều hồ bơi rất dễ, nhiều tầng, nhiều phòng rất là dễ, nhưng mà để tạo cho người ta có một cảm giác thoải mái sau khi ở khách sạn còn một thời gian thì chúng ta phải làm gì? Không phải là chỉ có đồ ăn ngon, không phải có spa, không phải là có cái hồ bơi hay là lớp tập yoga, mà nó liên quan đến một cái, đó là ánh sáng. Và chúng tôi phát hiện ra rằng là tất cả mọi người trên thế giới này, sống trên quả đất này, dù ở nước nào, người dân tộc nào, vùng miền nào, đều sử dụng chung một cái nguồn sáng, đó là mặt trời. Và hôm nay chúng ta sử dụng mặt trời ban ngày, thì tối nay mặt trời sẽ qua bên kia và mọi người hưởng, cái sáng mai mặt trời quay lại chỉ có một cái mà thôi. Do đó dưới cái ánh sáng mặt trời đó thì con người có sự cảm nhận giống hệt nhau, và cái cảm xúc là giống hệt nhau, bởi vì chúng ta có một cái chung là chúng ta là con người. Vì vậy nên khi con mắt chúng ta tiếp nhận ánh sáng vào, tiếp nhận cái ngoài bên ngoài, thì người ta sẽ dẫn tới một cái cảm giác. Và ở trong đây mọi người phải chú ý là khi mắt chúng ta nhìn vào thì có hai con đường vào tới cái cảm giác chúng ta. Có những cái chúng ta thấy và có chúng ta không thấy. Thí dụ như thấy đẹp, tức là thấy đẹp là đúng là bằng mắt, nhưng mà thấy ngon là vô lý. Thấy mà sao ngon được? Thì vâng, mà có thấy và ngon. Tức là có những cái hoặc là thấy thoải mái thì cái đó là cảm xúc. Thì có những cái nó đưa vào trên cái con đường mà gọi là không thấy được. Và lập tức khi mà thấy những cái việc đó, cơ thể chúng ta sẽ cung cấp những cái dữ liệu và điều khiển các cái giác quan trong cơ thể chúng ta. Giống như thấy ngon là buộc tự nhiên là chảy nước bọt. Hoặc là thấy một cái gì đó tự nhiên sợ. Sợ mà tự nhiên không biết vì sao sợ. Thì tất cả này nó liên quan đến cái nhịp sinh học cũng như là cái hệ thống trong cơ thể của chúng ta hoạt động. Và cái gì nó ảnh hưởng đến cái điều đó? Đó là ánh sáng mặt trời. Khi người ta sống, con người sống ra khi chưa có ánh sáng thì họ phải dùng cái ánh sáng mặt trời. Và ánh sáng mặt trời từ khi bình minh ló dạng cho đến khi mà hoàng hôn thì con người chúng ta nó sẽ phản ứng theo cái ánh sáng đó. Nó không phải riêng vì cái màu của ánh sáng mà riêng về cái chất lượng ánh sáng ở trong đó nữa. Các bạn sẽ thấy rằng khi với cái đó thì trong đầu chúng ta sẽ phát đi là một cái đồng hồ sinh học. Mà khi mà cái đồng hồ sinh học đó mà nó bị trật cỡ nào á, thì nó sẽ ảnh hưởng đến sức khỏe của chúng ta. Mà cái sức khỏe này không phải là sức khỏe của cơ bắp, sức khỏe của khỏe mạnh, mà sức khỏe tinh thần. Tức là hiện nay có những cái bệnh mà bệnh không phải là do ăn uống, không phải là do tập thể dục, mà do đầu. Như cancer, sau người ta phát hiện là cancer, ung thư là do đầu nghĩ chứ không phải là do cơ thể. Có người nói, ôi anh nó ăn uống rất khỏe mạnh, rất là ăn chay, tập thể dục thường xuyên, sao ảnh bị cancer? Tại vì tinh thần của anh không thoải mái và cái tế bào cancer nó phát triển. Hoặc là bệnh trầm cảm là do tinh thần. Mà tinh thần đó chính là do cái nhịp sinh học của người ta nó bị ráo trộn, nó làm cái ảnh hưởng đến cái sức sống của mình. Và trong đó chúng tôi nghiên cứu ra rằng là khi dưới ánh sáng thì cơ thể chúng ta phản ứng bằng cách sản xuất ra những cái nội tiết tố. Và những cái nội tiết tố nó sẽ tạo ra cái tinh thần của chúng ta. Giống như buổi sáng sớm, các bạn đi ra sáng sớm thì thấy rất thoải mái. Do đó mọi người tập thể dục và người ta rất thoải mái. Nhưng mà hoàng hôn thì bao giờ cũng là mệt mỏi muốn nghỉ. Do đó nên là những người mà thất tình thì không bao giờ họ đi ra buổi sáng hết á. Tại vì ra buổi sáng thấy mọi người rất là vui, nhưng mà buổi chiều thì họ cảm thấy như trời cũng đồng cảm với mình vậy đó, rất là buồn. Thì cái đó là do nó sản xuất cái nội tiết tố trong đó. Thì trong đó có hai cái nội tiết tố rất quan trọng, tức là cortisol và melatonin. Cortisol là nó sẽ làm cho chúng ta phấn khích, nhưng mà phấn khích hoài á, sẽ dẫn đến stress. Do đó nên buổi chiều khi ánh sáng chiều xuống là cái cortisol họ sẽ giảm dần và nó bắt đầu chuẩn bị để sản xuất ra melatonin. Melatonin là một cái nội tiết tố để làm cho cơ thể chúng ta giảm hoạt động xuống để mà đi ngủ cho tốt. Thì cái melatonin nó sẽ sản xuất ngay sau khi đèn tắt, tức khi mặt trời mà tắt xuống thì melatonin bắt đầu sản xuất và người ta dễ ngủ hơn. Và cái ánh sáng ở đây nó không phải là cái màu của ánh sáng mà là cái chất lượng ánh sáng trong nó. Tôi nói thí dụ như những cái ánh sáng mà chúng ta nhìn đây là màu vàng giống buổi chiều, nhưng con mắt của chúng ta nhận thấy ánh sáng này giống ban ngày bởi vì nó có nguồn ánh sáng xanh trong đó. Và ánh sáng xanh thì nhận nó nói sáng xanh tức là buổi sáng là chưa đi ngủ, chưa ngủ thì không sản xuất melatonin. Chính vì vậy nên có trường hợp chúng ta coi điện thoại hay tivi quá lâu vào buổi tối thì ngủ rất khó vì không sản xuất kịp melatonin. Mà nhất là những người lớn tuổi thì càng chậm sản xuất ra nữa. Thì ngoài ra, và khi người ta vui thì nó sẽ sản xuất ra serotonin, tức nó làm cho hưng phấn, thoải mái. Và khi mà hưng phấn thoải mái thì dễ tha thứ, cái gì cũng cho qua, không có bắt lỗi, không có nổi điên, không có soi. Vậy thì cái đó là nó đụng tới cái cảm nhận của người ta qua ánh sáng. Ví dụ trong một cái dự án chúng tôi làm thử, ta làm một cái dự án thiết kế rất là tối tăm, nhưng mà chúng tôi cố gắng đưa vào một cái nguồn sáng, đây là nguồn sáng dân tạo, nhưng mà có cảm giác giống như mặt trời đang xuyên qua cái mái kính. Thì cái người ngồi vô đây họ cảm giác họ có giống như ở trong một cái nhà tối tăm, mà họ cảm giác như họ có link với trời. họ có cảm giác là họ có link với trời, chứ không phải là thực tế là nó có link với mặt trời. Hoặc là chúng tôi thử làm những cái hiệu ứng ánh sáng mà giống như bình minh hoặc giống như hoàng hôn, thì lúc đó cơ thể chúng ta sẽ đáp ứng được và nói chúng ta đang ở hoàng hôn, ở bình minh, vân vân. Hoặc là chúng tôi tổ chức những cái ánh sáng mà trong casino để cho người ta đánh bài vào ban đêm mà tưởng đâu ban ngày, nên là cứ ngồi hoài chờ nào khi hết tiền mới đi ra. Nhưng mà cái quan trọng nhất là cái ánh sáng của tự nhiên và ánh sáng nhân tạo nó bị khác nhau ở cái chất lượng của ánh sáng đó, mà chất lượng đó chúng ta không biết được. Chỉ có não chúng ta mới nhận thấy, chứ còn mắt chúng ta không thấy. Mọi người nhìn giống nhau, đó cái vấn đề của ánh sáng tự nhiên là như vậy. Và trong đó có một cái quan trọng nhất là cái ánh sáng xanh. Thì mọi người đang nói cái ánh sáng xanh có hại cho sức khỏe, không phải. Ánh sáng xanh cần, nhưng mà cần vào lúc nào và bao nhiêu. Thí dụ như sáng sớm rất nhiều ánh sáng xanh để cho người ta khỏe mạnh, người ta làm việc. Nhưng mà khi chiều dần ánh sáng xanh mất đi, và buổi tối ánh nắng của buổi chiều hầu như nó mất đi ánh sáng xanh, và lúc đó cơ thể mới biết được là ngủ. Nhưng mà nếu chúng ta sử dụng cái nguồn sáng mà có nhiều ánh sáng xanh thì chúng ta sẽ cảm giác là ban ngày, mặc dù rõ ràng là đèn rất tối, nhưng mà trong cơ thể ta nói là ban ngày. Và ban ngày thì gì? Sẽ sản xuất sorbitol, và lúc đó căng thẳng và dẫn đến stress. Hoặc là do cái chất lượng ánh sáng nó sẽ làm cho cái không gian của chúng ta, cơ thể chúng ta, mắt chúng ta nhìn thấy là nó bị đục, nó bị mờ, nó không trong, nó không sạch, và cảm thấy không thoải mái và cảm thấy bực mình. Những cái đó sẽ dẫn tới là nó sai đi cái phục vụ cho con người. Nên mà hiện nay cái trend là cái gì cũng vậy, phục vụ cho con người. Anh làm cái gì để cho con người, chứ không phải biến con người trở thành robot. Do đó nên ở trong cái ánh sáng mà phục vụ cho con người thì người ta quan tâm đến cái nhịp sinh học, có phù hợp với nhịp sinh học con người không? Có phục hợp cái tâm trạng, có gây được cái tâm trạng không? Thí dụ như ở trong các cái hoạt động của chúng ta, nó sẽ tạo ra tâm trạng, rồi nó nâng cao cái năng suất lao động, rồi nó tốt cho thị lực, và cuối cùng nó liên quan đến là tiết kiệm năng lượng và cái tính bền vững. Thì tất cả những cái hệ thống như vậy, nếu chúng ta mà làm đúng thì chúng ta sẽ ngủ ngon, ăn ngon, và cảm thấy là nếu khách sạn chúng ta mà lưu ý thì chúng ta sẽ có một lợi thế cạnh tranh mà các đơn vị khác không thể nào bắt chước bằng cách chụp hình. Và chủ đầu tư không thể nào bắt chước bằng cách là lấy cái bản vẽ của chúng ta rồi tự làm. Ánh sáng nó cũng sẽ điều khiển hành vi của chúng ta một cách vô thức, tức là nó điều khiển hành vi. Giống như tôi nói khi mà chúng tôi làm ánh sáng cho các cái shop thì tôi dùng cái từ là mắt tới trước, chân tới sau. Nếu con mắt không thấy thì chân không bao giờ tới, mà chân không tới thì làm sao mà mua đồ. Do đó nên ở đây nó tự cái điều khiển hành vi. Giống người ta thấy cái tự nhiên là thấy sáng là người ta bước tới, hoặc là người ta hướng vào cái khi người ta ngồi, ta bao giờ ta nhìn vào cái độ sáng chứ không bao giờ ta nhìn vào bóng tối. Và một số cái điều khiển, cái kỹ thuật điều khiển ánh sáng thì các nữa sẽ có bạn nói về cái tool number one thì tôi không nói thêm. Và ngoài ra với cái chất lượng ánh sáng tốt, với cái chất lượng bố trí ánh sáng làm mắt không chói, ta nhận thấy thì mọi việc trở nên thấy trong và sạch. Và khi trong sạch thì người ta cảm thấy thoải mái, thậm chí người ta thấy mặt người ta đẹp thì ta cảm thoải mái. Mà thoải mái rồi thì cái gì người ta cũng cho qua và người ta rất vui. Như vậy cuối cùng là khi mà người ta ở trong một cái khách sạn mình, người ta ra về thì đầu tiên người ta thấy rằng sức khỏe người ta tăng lên. Bởi vì không phải người ta khỏe hơn mà người ta ăn ngon, ta ngủ được và tinh thần ta thoải mái. Và nó dẫn tới là người ta sẽ ở khách sạn bạn lâu hơn, nhưng không biết bằng cái gì. Do đó nên cái nội dung hôm nay chúng ta nói là ánh sáng không chỉ đẹp, không chỉ là sáng, mà nó ảnh hưởng đến sức khỏe của mình, nó thay đổi tâm trạng của mình. Nếu biết sử dụng ánh sáng trong cái dự án, bạn sẽ khai thác được rất nhiều và nó phục vụ cho con người. Nếu ai có thắc mắc gì hỏi thì có hỏi tôi sau và có thể email tới địa chỉ này. Xin cảm ơn mọi người đã chú ý lắng nghe.
Thank you, Mr. Tom, for your presentation. And if you want to see a real lighting live show, we have a live show of Cara put outside. And continuing the technical aspect of lighting, I would like to invite our next speaker, Mr. Matthew Norman from Baseline Design.
Thank you very much. Good evening or good afternoon, everybody. My name is Matthew Norman. I'm with Baseline, a lighting design firm out of Hong Kong. And I'm here to talk to you today about tunable white in hospitality. So you may have seen this image before, slightly earlier today. The reason why we love showing this particular picture and why it's so popular with lighting designers is because it is so important to us. It's the understanding that light does change throughout the day and it does change color. It's about connecting us with the environment. And I think a lot of times you'll see that in a lot of interior spaces, the interior lights don't do this. I think they should. And also, I want to thank Mr. Thuy because he's introduced this very well, and I don't have to. This is the circadian cycle. A big part of that entrainment that Mr. Thong talked about was that that color temperature cues in to so many different effects of the body. It makes us healthier, it makes us stronger, it makes us understand things. And the research that he talked about is actually incredibly important and incredibly effective. In fact, the most common application and the strongest application we actually see is not in hospitality, but in healthcare, which when you think about it is the ultimate kind of hospitality. You're really taking care of somebody. When somebody has no control over the environment and they might not be able to go outside, bringing the environment to them is what enables their healing, right? So it's a really important thing. But what I want to talk about today is how we actually get it done and then how we apply that to the hospitality space. So, quick summary, how it all works. We basically have a variety of light that's outside. We want to get it inside. And the way we do that is we simply identify the light at the beginning of the day, and the light at the noon, and then the light at the end of the day. And we fade between them. So this is not a complex technology. In fact, all we're doing is providing a separate lighting source with the colors and frequencies that we need. And how do we do that? Well, we need two lights, right? We need two different light sources in every fixture. Now, originally, this used to be incredibly expensive. We're basically doubling the amount of fixtures that we're putting in and doubling the controls. That's not true anymore, right? Every LED fixture out there is actually made up of an array of LED chips behind a phosphor, or in the case of linears here, every LED strip is made of hundreds of these things per meter. What we need to do is essentially dim half of them slightly differently and spec the other one differently. So it's well within reach of every project. All we need to do is slightly change the control scheme. So tunable white, it sounds like high tech, but it's actually within the reach of every project. Now, how do we choose the colors that we do? Well, it's a little washed out here, but you can see over, pardon me. There we go. So we choose the color of the daylight. We find out what that is. Well, we also know what the color of every sunrise is. But the other thing that we also need to include is the color of shadow. So it's the color of the sky reflected off of objects away from the sun. This is actually really important, which we'll get to next. Now, public areas are the front door. You know, it's actually how we enter the spaces. It's how we come to understand them. And where do we end up using all of that cold, cold light? Surprisingly, in warm environments, in hot places. This is something that we've been finding that a lot of markets have been doing almost instinctually, and we're here to support it. Hot environments, we often get them requesting colder and colder lights. 4000 K is actually pretty common, and we seem to be getting requests for even colder spaces. This is important in hot environments because you come in from the outside and you want to feel cool. You want the experience of shade. But in a hospitality environment, that's actually really tricky because we want cozy environments. We want soft, relaxing environments. And like what Mr. Thong said, a warm lit interior in the contrast coming in from bright sun can look muddy or dingy, even at high brightnesses. And then on the flip side, once the evening comes by, what was a soft transition from sun to shade becomes a cold space. So if you've ever been to actually, I think hotels in Dubai are notorious for this. They have cool, colored lobbies, but at nighttime when you come into them, they tend to get a little gray. So for operators trying to project a consistent image, this leaves guests wondering what's going on. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happening in Dubai, what's good, and what's still a little bit of a challenge. So here you can see daylight, sunlight coming in from the outside, but on the interiors, like most lighting and designers, we would choose something that works in a warm environment, a hospitality environment. We're going to be choosing a warmer light. It's fine in instinct, however, you can see it's not working very well here. And Shangri-La, noted for very dim or subdued environments, very relaxing, very luxurious, but at the same time, because that's the choice, the windows look especially icy cold, right? So it's all about managing contrast and managing that kind of expectation. On the flip side, you know, I talked about having a space that's actually quite cold at night, you know, a little bit sterile. This is the Royal Hideaway. They've actually chosen a fairly cold light so that at night it looks a little sterile. But again, even in the daytime, it's not actually cold enough, right? You can still see that it's not quite orange anymore, but in contrast to the daylight coming in from outside, it's still really tough. SLS Dubai Hotel. So beautiful high spaces. Sunlight's pouring in on this one on the left here. On the right, you can actually see the daylight coming in, and then the whole blue of the sky is reflected in the gray stones contrasting with the gold. It's gorgeous. The challenge is, once the sun goes, we no longer have any warmth in the space. It's actually really frigid. The whole thing is in shadow. What we're missing is the warmth of the light. But if we wait until the evening time, where they're using that warm light as part of the normal hospitality lighting theory, it all comes back. So it's a case of every space has sort of a target brightness, a target color that seems to suit it best, but there's always going to be some time of day where it's going to fail you. Sheraton Grand Dubai, again, we've got an excellent example here of light coming in from the side, hitting the big white lattice wall, and then of course everything looking strangely banana-toned. And of course, at night, when it was originally conceptualized, it's stunning. It's a beautiful space. And again, this is another counterexample that I think is actually really effective and really beautiful. We've got daylight pouring in from both sides during the day. We've got a fairly sort of moderate, I think about 3,500 lighting solution throughout, and it does really well. Even at night during sunset and sundown, when we were getting that blue sky, that it still seems to be so much warmer. But you notice once it's truly black outside, the image here, we don't have that hospitality warmth. We don't have the depth of the color change that we would like to see. I'm going to skip the address. So it is a bit of a hit list, but I really wanted to make sure that everybody takes away tonight that it's actually really important that we be able to capture that last part of the lighting controls here, that we are able to finally address the color changes that happen from the inside to the outside, and it's a really easy thing to do. We already have the solution here. We have controls that are done by time of day, clocks synchronized to the sunrise and sunset. We know what needs to happen, when and why. You know, we can make the curve match exactly what's going on outside, and we can even make it change whether it's cloudy or sunny. We have the sensors. We can do it. Oh, and it's not just the daytime. Even at night, we can actually start to control these things even more deeply. So for a dark environment, we have things called warm dimming. So it's kind of old technology, but it's really important that we start to be able to do it. This requires no extra controls and a slightly higher upfront cost for the fixtures, and it's a beautiful effect, very easy to do. So the one thing I just wanted to point out here, I think a lot of times we end up with advice that we shouldn't be mixing deep color temperature changes into a space, that it's somehow distracting. But it happens in nature all the time. You know, we've got the deep blue of the sky, the shadows happening, and then of course all of that warm, wonderful orange light from the candle lights, and again from the interior spaces. We can mix them and we can make it look beautiful. So, in summary, tunable white is not a complex technology. It solves a real experiential challenge at the edge of the guest experience. It puts hotel experience in an environmental context, and it provides a meaningful difference to the emotional tenor of the space. So, my take home today is please use tunable white. It's an absolutely worthwhile investment. And you can see from all of those photos today that people were taking with their cell phones that not doing it results in some really strange photos. But you take care of it, and then everybody who's taking their Instagram photos will be doing the marketing for you, and it'll look great any time of day. All right, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you very much, Matthew, for staying on time. And up next, I will leave the stage for Mr. Jonathan, founder of Kobi Lighting.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Jonathan Trouillon. I'm a lighting consultant with a background in environmental engineering and environmental law. And 8 years ago, I founded a lighting design and consultancy firms with a dream for light, and I'm here today to share this dream with you. So the dream is to rediscover light and darkness for a better life, for a thriving life. We will go through 3 chapters. The first chapter is about achieving clarity for rediscovering light. The second chapter is proposing a new vision for light, darkness for renurturing our life. The third chapter is elevating light matter together to try to create tomorrow's healing destinations. So talking about the first chapter, achieving clarity for light, today the usual definition for light is saying that light is an agent that enables us to see things, to be able to see our environment. Personally, I'm not satisfied with this definition of light. For me, light is much more than this. For me, there are different types of lights. We are surrounded by light every day, at daytime and nighttime, and light is part of our life. So, for example, we have the bad light, the lights that harm our life. They surround us in big cities. We, step by step, get used to it, and we accept it, actually. And we also participate in creating it. So the light from the telephone, the light from the shopping malls, etc. Then there's the light from the city, the light that defines the identity of a city. Then there's the light that we dream for our holidays. So when we all enjoy a sunset experience, this light, we call it the real light. The real light that has this power to better our life. So every day we are actually exposed to many types of lights. In blue are the artificial lights, and in yellow you can see the natural light. The problem is that we are exposed too much to artificial lights. One of the reasons is not only because of the human modern lifestyle, it's also because for 1,000 years, humans, we have created many types of artificial lights with different purposes: for working, for traveling, for playing, for contemplating, but also in some cases we use lights to make movies. For example, in this movie from Stanley Kubrick, Barry Lyndon, he's using for all scenes of the film, he's using only candle lights and he's shooting only under candle lights and natural lights, making the movie a masterpiece. Versus the modern life, today in our modern life, you can see we use artificial lights everywhere, on the ceiling, on the walls, on the floor, to light up any corners of the space. And that's a problem. Light is omnipresent. One more issue about the light. On the left, it's a daytime. On the right, it's nighttime. Besides the fact that here is warmer than here, actually at daytime and nighttime, we don't see a big difference. At nighttime, there is no contrast, and there is still the same brightness at daytime. So we have this issue on many hospitality projects that the guests, customers, they cannot see, they cannot feel the difference between daytime and nighttime. So it's very important. It's very important to reconsider about the natural cycle, the sun cycle, the night cycle, the sunrise, the sunset, and to consider it as a natural order. We should not go against the natural order. So should we quest for more real light? Should we rethink light? Should we reimagine light following a new approach, a new vision? So the second chapter is about renaturing our life with a new vision for light, darkness. So talking about darkness and renaturing. Renaturing is not just only planting trees. Renaturing our life, it should not be a short-term vision. We too often go for a few days in a nice hotel for a retreat to meditate, to rest. Actually, renaturing our life should be following a long-term approach, defining a new routine to rethink, to realign with natural cycles. So we suggest to you to welcome back darkness to your life, darkness as a solution to renature our life and to improve your life. I will share with you 5 tips to welcome back darkness into your life. The first tip is about daring to dim, to switch off the lights. We switch off a light, but too late, often too late. The second tip is to reinstate natural darkness into your life. It's very important to note that darkness is not the absence of light. Actually, we receive light from the moon at nighttime, we receive light from the stars. So we call it natural darkness, which is not the absence of light. The third tip, it's about letting our eyes adapting again to see the night. Actually, it's very important to adapt to darkness using all our senses. We need only 30 minutes. We need only 30 minutes to adapt again to the dark, to a darker environment, and a few hours to fully adapt to a dark environment. Rest. Reclose your eyes. So when you, yes, here it's important to note that we are not wasting time closing our eyes. Actually, when you close your eyes, it's not totally dark because you will have some phosphens. Phosphens, they are actually produced by your eyes. So when you close your eyes, you will see very small blinking lights. So you are not totally in the darkness. So you can try, when you close your eyes, you will see some blinking lights, which are called phosphens. The last point is to re-enjoy a life made of contrast. We should welcome contrast. Today, spaces are too uniform. We use too many lights, so the spaces are very uniform. We should welcome back contrast. Welcoming back contrast into our life, it's not meaning to not use any more artificial light. Actually, we have to relearn how to use artificial light. So the question is how to efficiently invest in artificial lights. We have, for a long time, historically, from nature, from God, we have the sun, natural daylight, and we have the moon, natural night darkness. And humans, we created LEDs. Originally, LEDs are for industrial flashlight or specific applications. And then to bring it to living space, we added some phosphor, we transformed these LEDs to mimic the sunlight, as Mr. Tong explained. And also we developed tunable light solutions like Matthew explained. Actually, we are redoing we are redoing what the sunlight makes and provide to us for free using technologies. So these solutions, from my point of view, are still very costly. When we want to get to very nice lightings, to enable white, it's still costly. These solutions are also not always efficient since we brought it to living space. LED lights are less efficient than before. And these solutions are not making of turning off the light earlier. Last chapter is about how together creating tomorrow's healing destinations. So it's important at first to question the role of a lighting designer. From my point of view, a lighting designer is not just only to sublimate a space, to highlight the architecture, to create cozy atmosphere. A lighting designer is also responsible to creating the condition for more wellness, to deliver efficiency, to preserve natural night darkness, and to enable guest users with a daylight access. We should focus, when we design a project, on creating real light corridors. We also should review the process of approaching projects. From my point of view, lighting consultant, we should not come at the end when all decisions are taken. We should come at the early design stage, supporting the architect, the landscaper, the interior designer, to use the sunlight and also to protect the night natural darkness. Also, prior designing, it's important to perform an audit of natural assets of the project sites, an audit of the natural daylight and an audit of the natural night darkness. So this is an example of a project we designed in Da Nang. The first step was not to input artificial light. Here the first step was to define where we have to protect the night, where we have to protect darkness, to not input artificial light. So in blue are the zones where we will not specify, will not install lightings. Finally, from my point of view, practicing lighting design today in this new modern world is, it should be done as a doctor practice acupuncture. We should specify a few lamps with a very clear purpose to get the right light effect and to not specify and get too much illuminance everywhere. So less is more. Thank you for your time. This presentation, this topic about rediscovering light and darkness, it's an opportunity for us to redynamize our life, to rethink the use of artificial lights, and to create tomorrow's destinations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jonathan. And now we will be moving to the last part of the CFS Masterclass before we will all joining the Oscar night. It's a very interesting operation panel. And I would like to invite on stage Mr. Andre, Complex General Manager of Furama Resort Da Nang, and our panelists.
I'll be standing, don't worry. Thank you. So the flowers in the middle, the cactus outside. Everybody, one more microphone, please, for the young man over there. All right, otherwise I can do without. No. I'm known for a loud voice, don't worry. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the GM's panel discussion. Thank you very much. I love that. So that's the right spirit. Thank you. So we're going to make this interesting. We're going to make this fun. I am very lucky. My name is Andre Gensch. I'm the Complex General Manager of 4 properties in Da Nang. The best known one is Furama. And I'm so lucky to have a very well mixed panel of international and domestic experts, people living in Vietnam for a long time, their whole life for a short time, men and women. So if everybody of you quickly, in short words, could introduce yourself. Eric, please.
Thank you, Andrew. Yes, my name is Eric. I'm from Sweden. I've been in Vietnam for 18 years now, and I'm currently the complex general manager for Anantara Quignon Villas, Avani Quignon Resort, and also our luxury train carriage, which is called the Vietage by Anantara.
Xin chào and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Liên Chen. I'm the CEO of the Five Hospitality. Now I'm currently in charge of 3 running properties and 1 in Chilamonoram. It's like also come the owner rep. And also by next year we'll have 7 properties in Vietnam. Thank you for coming.
Good evening, everyone. Evening, I think. Good afternoon, everyone. It's glad for me to be here. My name is Phương. However, you can call me as Nelly, so it's easier for you. Most of our friends in hospitality know me by that name. I am having around 15 years in hospitality industry and 10 years in being important. So now I'm currently working in several different projects and roles for the company. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Chris from the Pan Pacific, Hanoi.
Good afternoon. My name is Santiago. I'm Spanish. I'm newer to Hanoi. I've been 9 months here now, and I'm your host today. I'm the general manager of the Melia Hanoi. Thank you.
So he's willing to take all the compliments at the end of the event. All right, let's go straight to the subject. We have a lot of things to discuss, and one of the things I would like from you to know first is, generally, what's the situation of Hanoi? When I speak to my colleagues here in Hanoi, I often hear, you are having challenges after COVID. Lien, how do you see the situation of Hanoi right now?
Honestly speaking, Hanoi is one of the best places for the tourism after COVID. And from the report from the Savio, from year to date, Hanoi is top 3 in the market who's running good business for the tourism. Let's say, year-to-date occupancy of Hanoi is 61%, as I know. And also, the first stop is Saigon, and the second top is Hanoi, and the third is Quảng Ninh. It's the best destination for the tourism revenue in 2023. So I think that Hanoi is one of the best places so far.
So no challenges, everything fine, all happy?
For the business is happy now so far. And also just let you know that one of our properties in Hanoi is the Five Residences Hanoi. And year to date, our occupancy is 88.88%. Year to date occupancy.
All right, thank you. Now let me ask then Chris. Chris, some birds whisper to me there is a price war going on in Hanoi. Is that true?
I think, yeah, there is a sort of price war, but it's coming from also what has been shared from the lady from STR, that we have a supply which is growing faster than the demand. We are not yet having as many as arrival or guests like we used to have in 2019. As per my knowledge, we're currently about on 70%. And so we're missing simple guests. And what you're going to do if you miss guests, you're going to fight about the guests you have. But it's also in our hands not to go too far in that fight and find our own position and still remain friends and make sure that everybody has a piece of the cake. But the cake is currently not growing, no.
Right. How do you feel, Santiago? You are new here, 10 months now with the Melia. How do you feel it? You are every day having a headache with your revenue team?
We are always having revenue. I mean, the revenue team meeting daily basis. I mean, for me, the good thing, we are always comparing to 2019, pre-pandemic. The good thing for me was to see that from May this year, we are already in the ADR there, pre-pandemic levels, in terms of occupancies in September. So we are doing quite well. But again, we are comparing to pre-pandemic levels. So we lost already almost 3 years. So in our case, we are a management company, so the owning companies are all requesting us to return to the levels expected in 2023. This is going to be the problem.
So when you say returning to the level expected, one thing is your revenue, right?
Correct.
The other thing is the GOP.
The GOP.
So talking about challenges, talking about inflation, talking about raising employee salaries. How's your GOP doing, please?
You know, I mean, if you talk about salaries in Vietnam are always, of course, we are not in the levels of other countries, and this is something which goes in our favor. But again, I always remember a boss I have, hey, when you reach a level of GOP of 50%, you are in danger. And we are in levels of 50% GOP. This is, in my opinion, could be dangerous for some of us because we are struggling with expenses since the pandemic. We are still thinking about doing reductions in the staffing and the manning and everything, trying to be multifunctional. I mean, multifunctional now is the word for all the manning and all the hotels. But again, a 50% GOP, in my opinion, is not something sustainable in the future.
That sounds interesting. Eric, you're 18 years in Vietnam. Owners in Vietnam are spoiled with a high GOP in percentage, right? What's the future of the GOP going to be? Do we need to go to our owners? Now it's budget time, correct? We're all making the budget. Do we need to go to our owners and say you are not realistic anymore after COVID?
Every year. So it's more about having some meat on the bone, you know, that I think, I agree with Santiago that 50% is probably a bit too high. You're not using the income correctly if you're that high. There's exceptional years and there's average years, of course, but I think in the future, 45% for Vietnam, absolutely possible. And yes, the payroll is going up, but it's going up less than a lot of other countries. I think the workforce in Vietnam has become tremendously better in the 18 years, much more efficient. And then we have AI and technology coming in, which can actually do a lot of the old work that we need a manual workforce to do. So, thank you.
Nelly, you're overlooking 15 to 20 hotels. You know the finances of them. So what GOP do you expect next year when they bring you the budgets?
You're asking me as the role of the owners or you're asking me as the role of management?
I want to know both. and we will switch off the camera when it comes to the role of the management.
We have 35 hotels in total, and some is management contract and some is we are owning that. But I think this is a different point of view between the owners and management company when coming to the GOP discussions. Because definitely everyone knows the difficulty of the market when our revenues is still very small compared to 2019. And also our expense is coming very, very dramatic after that's all. Definitely as the normal logical thinking that the GOP need to be down. But you look at on the owner point of view, when the bank interest is increasing, so what to have the owner continue to keep the hotel operate without the money to give back to them? So for me, as no matter that we are on the management side or operation or the owner side, at the end of the day, is how much of the money can be returning to the bank. So it is not about the percentage of the GOP, it's also about the absolute numbers that you can bring back as well. What is for if 50% GOP, but it's only only give back to you like $35,000 US. So what is mean there? So for me, it's nothing that we call the reason or unreasonable GOP until you have until you have the reasonable approach on the budget comes.
Interesting approach, and I mean, I'm sure not everybody has been thinking about this before. Ultimately, the owner needs to refinance his investment, and he most likely needs to pay an interest to the bank, and we all know what's happening now in the economy of Vietnam. I mean, just to summarize this a little bit, I think we could go much further, but you're saying the occupancy in Hanoi is 61%. The rule of thumb used to be in the old days, you need 65% occupancy to run a hotel with profitability. So that sounds a bit of scary somehow. I hear somehow, yes, there is pressure on the price. Probably from when I combine the two of you, probably more on the middle segment market. I guess the luxury, they get away with the high prices, but the middle market is basically cannibalizing each other to some extent. So I see some challenges in there. And frankly speaking, Vietnam, the economy is growing. In a growing economy, salaries have to go up, inflation is going up. Therefore, usually when you go to countries like Switzerland or Germany or Japan, GOP in percentage is less. But then you come and you say it's not the percentage, it's the dollar which counts. All right, fantastic. Anyone has a question about this? Then no, then you think about it, don't worry. You can ask questions at the end. No, if I let you think too much, then we're not going to go on. Right, so now we talked about GOP, we talked about occupancy. All this has to do very, very much with our marketing, right? It has to do with our tourism mix. Now, I want to know what you do to have a healthy tourism mix. For example, I can talk about my property. I have a totally unhealthy tourism mix. I don't have a choice. I don't want it, but I don't have a choice. I have 60% Koreans. Now, they do pay a very good rate, I have to say, but I have a monthly statistic which shows me, number one, what rate every nationality is paying for the hotel rooms. And I have a second statistic, how much money every nationality is spending in the hotel for other services, such as F&B, spa, and. And it's a totally different picture. Do the Koreans pay 20% more than the Vietnamese for the room rates? Yes. Do the Koreans spend 30% less in the hotel than the Vietnamese? And 80% less than the Westerners? Yes, they all go to the K market. So, having said so, that's the situation about my hotel. Let's look at the big picture. Hanoi, Halong. How do you see the current tourism mix in the region here? Eric, can you maybe begin and talk about Central Vietnam?
Yeah, sure. I think you've touched on sentiments that I agree with. That number one is that you want a lot of eggs in the basket. There's factors that can happen. Overnight, we have seen it before. There can be conflict. There can be an economic situation in one destination or one feeder market, and you lose too much of your pie. So you want a mix. For us in Quinion, the domestic tourism is very important to us, and similar to what you mentioned, Andre, that we like Vietnamese guests because they actually spend a lot. So the average spend of our domestic guests is much better than some other nationalities. Then the other one that I'm sure all of us are looking for is we obviously want guests that stay a long time. So look at markets with a long average length of stay, and that's where we want to invest our marketing dollars.
I think it's very much a change of market, right? I remember when I came to Vietnam 5 years ago, we used to say the Vietnamese don't spend money. And now you're telling me it's the Vietnamese who spend the money. Amazing. So things are changing, right? Chris, what's your take on this?
I think it's not only about the nationality, but it's also about the overall segments you have. One of the big efforts we do is to make sure we have a certain base and we have a certain loyalty in our customers. So then we're looking at making sure we have our corporates coming back. We're looking that we have meeting groups, because this is something which is booked 6 months out. And if you have 6 months out already 40% occupancy, or even airlines, so you wake up in the morning and you have already a certain amount of rooms, you start different and you can yield different. But we have certainly a change in the dynamics of the different nationalities. We heard also today the Chinese are not yet back. We have a lot of Taiwanese coming in. We have at the Pan Pacific a lot of Spanish guests. But I think what is important overall for the hotel I'm working for is to have a healthy balance, that you're not standing on one leg, but you have different legs, and then you can also yield on different kind of segments.
Santiago was just listening. What, you have a lot of Spanish guests?
Yeah. There's something we need to discuss. Okay, yeah, my friend. Here, the problem, I'm completely agree with Chris. I mean, the problem is the segmentation of the hotel. And the market which we are missing now is, in the case of a city hotel, is the MICE market, okay? This used to be a very strong MICE market hotel. Probably 30% of the business was coming from MICE. Why MICE is still not there. I mean, we are in figures probably 40-50% below pre-pandemic levels. So we are struggling there. On the other hand, we are a hotel which hosts a lot, probably all the politic delegations who are coming for Vietnam are staying in this hotel. This is why you have all the security and these kind of things there. in our lobby today. And this market, it happened the same as it happened with the weddings. It was stopped during the pandemic, and now it's coming back all together. So for us, all the political delegations coming to Vietnam to visit and these kind of things are coming back in a huge volume. But again, the problem for us, the biggest problem is the MICE, because it's the market who has a biggest lead time, probably the most spending market, and it's still not there.
Nelly, tourism mix. Why is Ha Long Bay empty?
Basically, I don't think Ha Long Bay is empty. Currently, it's not only one hotel, but I think it's for the Vietnamese market in general. The domestic market is still dominate the market, no matter what hotel we are. Or especially in some Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, yes, you have some hotel which have is a better mix than the others. But for me, when we talk about the mix, it's not only the matter of the geographic, it's also the matter of demographic. So the segmentations is, yes, as the secretary says, that is important. But even for let's take the Chinese market as before. There's a lot of the mass China market come to Vietnam, but there's also have the luxury market from China to come to Vietnam. So.
Did you have a look at my notes? That was my
really?
next question.
So it's not about that, not only about the open new market for us to balance the tourist mix. It's also to get the mix also in different category for one country that you already have reached and that build your name and reputation in that country.
I think you're absolutely right. And what you said about the Chinese was really on my lips too. We all still have that perception of the mass tourism of the Chinese. But there are more and more Chinese having more and more money, and they are looking for the luxury segment. So there is a huge, huge opportunity in this. Now, if we talk about all these market segments, ultimately we need to sell it, right? The very old question we hear every now and then, what is Thailand doing so much better than Vietnam? That Thailand has so many tourists and we seem to lag behind for years and years and years. Santiago, do you have any ideas? You're only 10 months here, but maybe with your fresh approach, you tell us what we do wrong.
You know, I give you my personal impression, for example, okay? I mean, Thailand has been in the market for so long time, and Vietnam is quite new in the market. There is one kind of promotions the countries are doing and are doing very well, and Thailand is doing beautiful. My first time in Thailand, I was staying in a hotel called Le Bua. I don't know if you heard about this hotel. This hotel was living at that time, this was 7 years ago, because of a film. One film made that hotel. And he's still living nowadays because of that film, The Handover Tour, which is scene of the most emblematic scene of the film was shooted in that hotel. I mean, films of Thailand, you have thousands of films of Thailand shooted in Thailand. You can see Thailand in any film, in the TV or whatever, in the cinema, whatever. We have one cinema film called in Vietnam, I think this year they shoot a film here.
Yeah,
which is now in
lady
Netflix,
traveling around Vietnam, yes.
A really cheesy film. There is a lot of effort from the Vietnamese authorities to do in terms of promotion. I mean, Thailand is miles away from us in terms of promotion, miles away.
You have time to watch cheesy films.
Sometimes.
All right, Lien, you have been working in Phu Quoc. You worked in Da Nang, you worked in Hanoi, so you saw the different marketing strategies. Some places probably don't even have one. What's your take on Vietnam tourism, how Vietnam is promoting itself to the world?
I would like to continue a little bit regarding the marketing lesson from Thailand first. Because I had a chance to go to Thailand in February, and I can give you at least 4 reasons now to compare why the Thailand tourism is so fast developed comparing to Vietnam tourism. The first one, they can give a very very competitive price of the tour. For example, I just only paid 7 million for a tour package, including everything, for 5 days and 4 nights. That's the first reason. So as you can see that this year, many more Vietnamese tourists come to Thailand or another country instead of staying in Vietnam. That is fact, the first reason. The second reason is that they learn by heart. I mean that from the driver to the tour guide, to everyone, even that the fruit seller on the street or the clothes seller at the market, they understand why the tourism in Thailand is so fast, because they have a slogan that whenever for other tourists come to Thailand, they only serve with the best way, just to make sure that every single tourist spend only $1. That is slogan. So that slogan, everyone in Thailand understand and they apply very well. And even the seller in the market, they can speak English. That is the third reason. They can speak English very well, and they can communicate with all other tourists. And also they are very fast, also very smart, and they have a good communication. So that's why they have a three reason. And also another reason that they have spiritual tourism as well. That's also very famous in Thailand. Even Vietnam has a lot of kind of nice pagoda and things, but the marketing, I mean the destination marketing is not there yet. And also comparing to the facilities and street, if you come to Thailand, I can say that Vietnam have a more nicer street, more nicer cities, and a lot of things nicer. However, I mean the concept and also cleanliness, we have to learn from them a lot. I mean that everything from Thailand is cleaner and well organized, so that is a fourth reason why.
You said that as a Vietnamese, I'm glad I don't have to say it. Thank you very much.
That is a fact, yeah, it's true.
Eric, how is the marketing going in your area? I haven't heard much yet of marketing activities.
Yeah, well, we have to do quite a bit ourselves, but we are not the only upper luxury property there. There's also a Sanier resort, and we work closely together in terms of destination marketing. And I think that's how you have to look at it, that you cannot put all the pressure or all the expectations on VNAT and expect them to solve everything. And the budget is, of course, one thing, but all of us in terms of hotel groups or single hotels, we have a responsibility as well, that we have to assist in the marketing of Vietnam and identify the key components that make this, if I can choose better than Thailand, for example, the cuisine and the food, or the genuine friendliness of the people. So, that's our job as well, to try to continue to show what the difference is between Vietnam and Thailand.
I had a discussion with Mr. Martin, German. He's the commercial director of the Annam in Cam Ranh. Martin has an occupancy year to date of 93% in Cam Ranh, which is generally around 30 to 35%. So I asked Martin, what are you doing? And he says he has 7 offices in 5 different countries just to promote his hotel. He has 7 offices alone as a hotel, coming back to what you say. Now guess how many tourist offices Vietnam has in the world? The Annam alone has 7. Vietnam has 3. Japan, South Korea, UK. Guess how many Thailand has? 29. Malaysia, 35. Singapore, 31. So yes, you get a point. Do not wait for VNAT. One of the reasons why we are lacking behind Thailand is simply Thailand has 29 tourism offices and we have 3 tourism offices. So if you want to catch up, we have to do something. And the budget, by the way, usually the average budget compared Malaysia and Thailand to Vietnam is 20 times higher in Thailand and 20 times higher in Malaysia. So if Vietnam is spending $2 million, Malaysia is spending $40 million. Thailand is spending $50 million. Lesson for us, yes, we are lagging behind Thailand. I think yes, as hoteliers, thank you Martin, if you can hear us on the camera, thank you for this. We as hoteliers, we have to do it ourselves. We have to be very, very proactive ourselves. But having said that, that is the marketing part. It doesn't solve the long asked question, why is the return rate of guests in Vietnam 5% only? Why are only 5% of international travelers coming to Vietnam, coming back to Vietnam? Why is the return rate in Thailand 50%? Now maybe you deduct the nightlife, they come back very often, then you're probably still on 40%. Why do people not come back to Vietnam? Chris, you are a sharp man, please tell us.
Thank you. I think it's important I would like to underline two messages Santiago and Lien made earlier. We have to understand the Vietnamese tourism is only 30 years old. 1990 something, the border opened. 1995, it started to really grow. So the Vietnamese tourism is very, very young. And I think in the very beginning, and it's still a slogan which is around, is the charm of Vietnam. So the charm of Vietnam was a bucket list kind of trip. You go one time to Vietnam, still today, you go one time to Ha Long, you saw it. You go one time to Sapa, you saw it. There is not really a reason to come back. And I think that's something which, yes, hoteliers have to pay a part of it, but that's something the destination Vietnam needs to work on it itself. Because the culture we have, the heritage we have, the history we have is not something you can solve with mass tourism. So we need to shift from the bucket list to returning guest. We need to shift from mass to class. And when we talked about it on the other day, I just had thought to use a theory we have in motivation, Herzberg. Herzberg motivational theory has two components. Has the hygiene factors, if you do and the motivational factors. If you do the hygiene factors right, nobody's motivated. So you need to tick the boxes of the hygiene factor. And I think there we have two. We have the hard factors and the soft factors. We need to have our infrastructure. We have to have our logistics. We need to have our comfort and we have our safety. Very simple things. There are no dustbins on the street. There are no public toilets on the street. This is just stuff which needs to get done. These are boxes to be ticked. Then the other thing is the soft approach is the attitude which you mentioned before. Is that we don't have this attitude. I'm not Vietnamese, okay, but we don't have this attitude to say hello, please, thank you, and goodbye. It's not in the culture of Vietnam. So it's very difficult to have then that trained and practiced. That's just, we have to get these things done. And then to coming back, what also has been shared with, I think Tu mentioned that in the first panel, is about the trends. We need to find reasons that people are coming back. Why are people coming back to Thailand? Tu mentioned about golf. She mentioned about wellness. She mentioned about Medicare. We had another presentation of elderly living. So I think there are different things we need to do to get that sorted. But I strongly believe, and I love Vietnam. I live here for many years. I have a Vietnamese family. We need to shift away from bucket list, to having loyal, returning customers. And then there even might be having the right to buy an apartment, even having the right to easily move money, just to make sure Vietnam becomes a lifestyle and not. Thank you very much. My time is up.
I like your term, move away from the bucket list. First time I heard that, but I think it very, very much hits the spot. Backpackers, actually, they all do the bucket list.
Yes, I have friends that said, "Yoo-hoo, I'm in Hoi An." I said, "I have been there 20 years ago. Why should I come back?" I said, "The beach is the same. It's just more people now."
Yeah, fair enough. Well, the good news is Vietnam is spending 6% of the GDP on infrastructure. No other country in Southeast Asia is spending that much money on infrastructure. So we are on the way catching up. Government knows it. Government works on it. Right. Eric, I wanted to ask you a tricky question, but now I forgot it. No, when there were the Olympic Games, coming to soft factor, when there were the Olympic Games in Beijing a couple of years ago, the Chinese government made a massive campaign in the 18 months leading up to the Olympic Games, basically brainwashing the Chinese what is manners. Don't get me wrong, no offense, all right? What is manners, how to behave, how not to litter in China, how not to spit on the floor, what do international travelers expect? Because China wanted to show the best face to the world. Eric, do we need a campaign like this in Vietnam? No offense, all right? But talking about public mindset.
elevator etiquette and so on. I guess you mean, right?
Correct.
Yeah. No, I think it's it does take time, and you can either do it the Chinese way with a very firm campaign, or it's a generational thing that gradually is going to get better. And we us hoteliers that have domestic guests, one of the challenges that we have is the children sometimes that with perhaps not as much understanding about the surroundings. So at breakfast with an iPad on full volume and so on, and so I think we should focus on the children. It's an easy answer, but that's the best solution that I have.
Long-term strategy.
Yeah.
All right. Lien, in your hotel, how are the guests behaving? How is it going with the international and the local guests?
Well, it's changed a lot this year, I can tell you. After the COVID, everything changed. Also, our guests, like this, in some other our properties, is different from the guests. For example, like the Korean guests. Now they care more about the price. Also the same with the Vietnamese, but now they choose the destination. For example, like this year, they normally would not come to Da Nang more, but they moved to Phan Thiết, Bình Thuận. Yeah, they find another place, and also they try to find a place who have a lower price, like Nha Trang, as you can see, and this leads to the price war. However, the behavior now after the COVID, they seems to be more difficult. Why? And also more demanding, because they have a more choice, they have more options. So many resorts and hotels, or even the homestay coming up, and open more and more every year. So that's why they have a lot of choice, why we have limited guests than 2019. So that's why they're more demanding. However, service quality is the best thing that we always have to consider and focus on, even this year or next year. That would be.
Okay, maybe to wrap this up and coming back to the soft factors, I think we all know Vietnamese people are lovely people. Vietnam is a lovely culture with a great potential. Yes, we have some issues in terms of littering. We have some issues in terms of public behavior. In all fairness, I was in Dubai before Dubai became rich. I worked in Malaysia before Malaysia was successful. And I think it's also part of a natural development of a nation. With the development also becomes, let's call it, the sense for the finer things, the sense for more cleanliness, the sense for taking for each other more care. And I mean, I do have to say, the government is also working on it. When you go to certain airports up-country, you actually see rules in Vietnamese how to behave on the airport. Do not throw things away. Do not jump the queue. Do not do this. Do not do that. And that's, in all fairness, it's a very normal development for a country which moves up very, very fast. Not the first time I see this, I have to admit. All right. Then let's move on to our favorite subject nowadays, sustainability. And sustainability for me is not only go green. I think in Vietnam we are always talking about go green. But when you are talking people who work for government organizations, sustainability is also social. It's also taking care of the community. It's also taking care of the economy. It's also taking care of the society. So, having said so, also money, or you tell me time is up? All right. So, what is sustainability for you, Santiago, in your hotel?
There is a long way to do here. I mean, we are finding a lot of difficulties in certain small things. Of course, we are working with the community. We are trying to do our best, but for example, finding a provider for avoid these plastic bottled waters and this kind of things is complicated here. It's not easy. And we are supposed to be the most sustainable hotel company, management company in the world. So yeah, we are finding a lot of difficulties in Vietnam, some difficulties. But we are working very close with the community. This is our job to do here, yeah.
Right, Chris, sustainability for you. I believe it's not the ghost towns in Phu Quoc.
No, I think sustainability has also a bit to do with sense of purpose and belonging. If you live sustainability, as you mentioned, you also talk about community, you talk about environment, you talk about culture, you talk about engagement. And that for us at the Pan Pacific, this is really like, it gives us a certain soul. Yes, it also is our responsibility, to make sure we reduce waste. And of course, there's also certain savings involved. But for us, the primary factor is to do good and to be good because we live here too.
Sustainability is also having two women in a panel, two Vietnamese women in a panel, which 5 years ago would only have been old expat men. No, young expat men, sorry. All right, so sustainability is also looking for the local community and for the women. Let me ask you, Nelly and Lien, if you look back 5, 6 years ago, your chances of sitting in this chair, of becoming a highly respected leader, manager in the hospitality industry, how was that 5, 6, 7 years ago compared to now? Can we start with you, Nelly?
It's our topic. Yeah, this is our topic. It's time to talk. Sustainability is from two gentlemen, but it's, for me, it's not only about the environmental problems, it's also the humanities problems. So there's no way for any company, organizations, or any country can say that we go for sustainability without develop our people sustainable. And when we talk about the peoples, men and women is always appear as the peers. You cannot have one or all, right? So yes, come back to your questions. 5, 6 years, this not even mentions about the women can be present on that on the webinars or any things like that. But even for the local people to appear in that kind of the event is also less. But more than more, day by day now we see more the local people taking more the responsibility, take the roles, grow up. It is both for men and women. Luckily, I grow up in the cities and in the family that we don't have any differences between the men and women. Even a lot of us, and if you are asking the men in Vietnam, then they will tell you a lot of family in Vietnam running by women, not by men. I'm sorry, gentlemen in here. Have a joke that, yeah, you all of you know, right? You have the Vietnamese family. So just to get a joke, but it's a reality. I have a friend, he say that in my family is very simple. The small things make decision by women, and the big things make decision by men. I get married for 20 years, my family have no big thing happen. So if you want to grow up in Vietnam, I think, then developing people's local talents and the woman talent is the big support for sustainability for country.
When I going to Lien, I had a talk with Lien 5, 6 years ago. I was interviewing her for a project, and she worked in a very, very top-class hotel in Vietnam. I'm not going to mention this hotel now. I hope they changed their approach. One of the best hotels in Vietnam. And I asked her, why do you want to move to this other company, which definitely doesn't have the same reputation and the same reasons for you? And Lien told me at that time, you know what, Andre, why do I want to join this company? Because number one, I'm a Vietnamese. And number two, I am a woman. They will never give me the chance to grow. Has that changed in the meantime?
That's fact. That's fact. Actually, it's a very good story that Andre just come back. Like 6 years ago, I never thought that I could be the female GM in Vietnam, because Vingroup was the company, the first company in Vietnam recruit the female GM at that time, like 6 years ago with Nelly. So Nelly is the person who running that project. So thanks to Nelly and Andre, that's why I'm here today. So actually, I decided to move from the Intercontinental Da Nang where I working there, and I told him that, well, I would like to move to Vingroup because they give us a chance to become one of the top first female GM in Vietnam, and earlier no Vietnamese and no female GM in Vietnam. So that's why it's a big move, and also I learned a lot of things, and that's why after became like cluster GM in Vinpearl, and I decided to move to another company, and now I'm the CEO of another group, also quite big group, and I'm proud that I'm a woman. So I can tell you that women can do something that the men cannot do. Okay, that is fact. That is fact. That is fact.
No fights on the
Yeah,
stage,
but
please.
that is life. But for the work, trust that. I mean, believe in the woman because the women have like power inside. They have a power and they have belief inside. So normally when we work, we wouldn't like try our best effort with our best thing we can do, and also with the woman sometimes like soft for the job. So I think that is totally suitable for the hospitality.
So I understand the situation has become better, but there is still a lot of work to do. Eric, you are in charge of 3-4 properties in total? 3 properties. Do you have any specific programs to groom the locals, A, in general, and B, to groom the women or some minorities in particular?
Vietnam, I'm the only foreigner, first of all, at any of these 3. So that's a good start. And I think about 65% of our leaderships, our heads of departments are female, so many more than the male. And if I can, we don't actually have a female Vietnamese GM yet. That's certainly something that we as a group are very much hoping will happen in the near future. Our flagship property in Hoi An, Da Nang Tara, now has a EAM, Miss Hai, who's been with us for 19 years and gone from rank and file to second in that property, which is our most successful property in Vietnam. So I would like to believe that we are very much for gender and also sexual equality in our workplace.
Thank you very much. We're coming to the end of this panel. I think as a summary we can say Hanoi, there is much of work to be done to promote Hanoi. We are okay in terms of GOP and occupancy, but we need to push it further. And we know, don't wait for VNAT, 3 offices. Remember, do the work yourself. Take the Annam as a good example. We understand that our tourists, our tourist mix is changing. There will be in the future also Chinese coming, spending money, and we will have to take care for a healthy mix in all the hotels. And we do hope, not only you in Hanoi, that the MICE tourism is coming back, which is still lacking behind. As a matter of fact, I was in a conference 2 months ago, in a regional Southeast Asia conference. They all expect the MICE business only to come back in 26. So you still can go back and revise your budget. As for sustainability, we agree, and I think that's the important message I would like you all to understand. Sustainability is not only go green. Sustainability is buying local products. Sustainability is supporting the local community. Sustainability is promoting and grooming young Vietnamese ethnic minorities, giving women a chance to grow, being fair, making promotions not based on the sex, but promotions based on what people are really capable of. Right, so I hope that sums it up a little bit. I wish to thank very, very much for all of you for some fantastic feedback. I certainly have some interesting takeaways. Thank you.
Thank you.